So are you worried about the price drops and the distributions being lower in the Yieldmax ETFs like MSTY and ULTY and a few others? Well, in this video, I want to kind of go over why I'm not worried and how I'm fighting against my overall position being down. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to take a look at a few of the Yieldmax ETFs, see where I'm at currently in my positions, as I have bought a few and also I have received some distributions. So we're going to update those, and then in the midst of it we're also going to explain why I am not too concerned about the price drop, but how I'm fighting against it, right? I'm able to keep my average price close to, if not under, the current price of the ETF. Because if your average is below the current price, then you're not so worried, right? You feel like you're in a better position. But if your current price is double what the current price of that ETF is, then it does make you start second guessing yourself, right? So for me, I like to set myself in a position to help remove some of that worry. So let's just go ahead and we're going to jump right over into my spreadsheet. We're going to update my current positions in the ETFs that I have. And it's not all of them, but is the ones that we have been tracking. And I'm going to try to add all of them in there eventually. I have added YMAX to it recently, so we'll get to see where I'm currently at in my current position of YMAX. And we'll see, am I green or red in YMAX? So we've got quite a few to go through, so let's just go ahead and jump right over into it. And we'll start right off here with BIGY. Now, I'm going to go in alphabetical order. I've just got them listed across the bottom down here, right? And you can see we'll have BIGY, CONY, MSTY, and so forth. But I just have them in alphabetical order, and I'll also will have them bookmarked if there is a certain one that you want to focus more in on. Now, before we go too far, if you do appreciate this type of content, it'd be much appreciated if you would hit that like button. And also, if you're not part of the group, you can subscribe as well. We would love to have you in the group. And at the end, I'll also go over quickly with generating a monthly income spreadsheet that I did release, as there was some questions about a couple with the RoundHill ETF funds. And there was a question about that it might not be calculating it correctly. So I'll go through that and use those examples that one of the commenters had mentioned, and we'll make sure that we're plugging everything in correctly. So just going right back here to BIGY, and as you can see, the current price of BIGY is that $50.89. My adjusted price per share is $46.89, so therefore I am actually below the current price. And that's what I mean by when I look at this and I see that, well, that makes me feel a little bit better, right? Now, I have not purchased any more shares in this one. I don't have a large position in it, but I did earn a distribution. Let's just go ahead and enter in that distribution. And for all the distributions, you can go straight to the Yieldmax website and you can look to see what those dates are, what the amounts are for each of those ETFs. And I'm not going to necessarily do that here. I'm just going to punch them in as I have them all written out just to help save a little bit of time. Now, the date that I do use for my distribution is not the pay date. It is not, okay, not the pay date. This here is the X date. And there's a reason why I use that X date here, is because that helps me to know if the stock purchase over here that I did make, right? If I made a purchase, that helps me to determine if those shares at that purchase date is eligible for the distributions, right? Because you have to own it before the X date. Well, if I put in the pay date, that can be a little bit more difficult, as you would have to say, in your mind 2 days before that, right? And what if it didn't pay until that Monday? Well, that just makes it all very difficult, right? So that's why I use the X date, because that is a hard date, right? That you have to own those before, or else you do not earn that distribution. So that way you can compare it with this date over here. And if that date over here in your purchases is before this date in your distribution list, you can count those shares. So that just makes it a little easier. At least it does for me. And I hope it does for you as well. So the distribution that I did earn was on 9/3, and we earned a total of 5111. Now how many shares? Well, I did not purchase any, so it's just the 11 shares. Now I had 46.89 as my real share price, and now that has dropped to 46.38. So that is now my adjusted price per share. And like I said, this is a very small position, as I only have a few $100s tied up into it. All right, moving on to CONY. Here we are on CONY. And I did not make any purchases with CONY. And we did not receive a distribution this week on CONY. The last distribution that we received was on 8/21. So we do have one coming up soon, but we have not received it yet. My current price, and this is my real price per share, is $7.67. So I am very close to the actual price of CONY being $6.81. I am slightly above it, but I am close. Unlike if I was not tracking this, I would be looking at this share price over here, and that's my purchase share price, which is usually what's shown on the broker app at $12.21. Well, with a price of $6.81 and a share price of $12.21, you're not feeling so good about your position on that. And you could possibly be thinking, well, maybe I just need to jump out. Now, none of this is financial advice, and you have to make a decision whether you stick it out or whether you go ahead and take your loss, or whatever you decide to do. That is up to you. You have to make those decisions. But for me, I'm going to stick it out because my real share price is $7.67 and the current price being $6.81. I am okay with that. Now moving on to MSTY. And my real price per share with MSTY being $3.30 and the current price at $15.62. I am looking really good with this. And this is another example, right? Purchase share price being $24.21 and the current price $15.62. Well, like I said, you're not feeling too good about that. Even though you are earning those distributions, you're still not sure where you're set in your position. Well, with this sheet, it will help you to see that and visually see it, right? So with this, I visually see that I am at a current risk of MSTY at a price of $3.30 per share. Now, I did not purchase any more MSTY, right? My last purchase was on 8/19, but I did get another distribution. And that distribution was on 8/28. And we earned 1.0899. And that was that $1.09. But I put in the exact number because that does matter. Now, how many shares are eligible? Well, since I did not make a purchase, and let's just make sure, 8/28. All the shares before 8/28 can be counted. Well, my last purchase being 8/19 means I can count all of my shares. Well, my total amount of shares is right here, so I can just transfer and use that 475 as the number of shares eligible. So I enter in 475, and when I hit enter, it will recalculate my adjusted price per share, as that is my real price, right? Let's just see what that takes it to. And now from 330 down to what? 221. Yes! What? I mean, that gets you excited, right? I am at a adjusted price per share of $2.21. So I've earned back a total of about 90% of my total capital that I've spent. That is awesome. But we're not done, because remember also in a previous video that I had mentioned, what did we do with that $19 put that I had? Well, I'll tell you what I did. Remember, I rolled it, right? I rolled that $19 put and I rolled it down to $16. Now that alone doesn't give me any kind of extra money there, but for doing that, I do earn a premium, right? And that premium amount is what I can enter in. Now we still have this $25 call, so I'm not messing with this one. And that's good until 9/19. Now my put here was good till 9/19, but I did roll it early. So what was the date that I made that purchase on? That was on 9/5, and it will expire. And this is my new expiration date, right? So that new expiration date will be on January the 16th of 2026, okay? Because I did roll it out about 4 months. Now, what did I do? And this is just for my own knowledge in this field, right? Just so I know what I did. So I rolled that $19 strike, and I rolled it to a $16 strike, and that was a roll. It was a put order, and there's only one of them, right? Only had one. Now here is the good part, right? Because I earned some money for doing so. And how much did I earn? Well, I earned $44, but I did have to pay a transaction fee. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to type in the full formula right here. So I did earn 44 cents per share, and that is times what? 100 shares. So we can take this and say times 100, being 100 shares per contract. And how many contracts? Well, one contract. Then what do I want to do? Well, I want to subtract my fees. And the fees for selling this put was 11 cents. Okay? So just by doing that, I'm also keeping track of my cost for writing that put, right? So we'll see my premium up here where it says $789.65. That will increase slightly. My real price per share will drop slightly. And let's just see what it's going to go to. Very nice. I'm excited. Look at that. I'm at $833 in premium. My real price per share just dropped to $2.12. Ho, love it, right? Gotta love it. Now for the old one right here, all I'm going to do is highlight it, and I'm just going to strike it out, and I'm also going to turn it red because that one now no longer exists because this is the new order. So that order now does not exist. So as you can see, this really changes your mindset, right? This changes how you feel about a position that you're in. This number does. And that's the reason I like to enter in my ETFs into this sheet. Because seeing that I'm actually at a adjusted price of $12.12 is a huge difference than what my broker app is showing me at an average of $24.21, right? And with the price of MSTY at $15.62, you automatically just feel down because you know you're earning those distributions, but you don't really fully understand if you are up in the play, down in the play. Are you making enough distributions to cover the MSTY price going down or what? So if you're not tracking it somehow, how do you understand what your actual real price per share is? And that, to me, makes the world of difference, right? So that gets me excited because once that's zero, then I can take my distributions after that point and I can be buying more MSTY if I want. I can put that money into other stocks, VOO, or other ETFs, whatever I want to do. Because at that point, my MSTY would be paid off and there's just some kind of good feeling about getting something like that paid off. So I think you get the idea of why I am playing these ETFs this way, as I am capturing my distributions so that I can get my stocks and positions in that ETF paid off. So let's move on forward to the next Yieldmax ETF. And here we are on NVDY. And for NVDY, I did not make any purchases and we have not received another distribution yet. But we do have one coming up soon. So you can see I have 71 shares and my average real price is $15.55 right here. and the actual price of NVDY being 16.11 as shown right there, you can see I am actually green on the play, utilizing my distributions versus my purchase share price being 25.17. If that's all I had to look at and I saw the price at 16.11, yeah, I'm making those distributions, but I don't understand where that puts me in my position. So I'm not feeling so hot. But when I calculate this, like I said, it just makes you feel better. So no updates for NVDY. And next we have SMCY. And on SMCY, I did make a couple new purchases, but we have not received a distribution, or at least I have not, right? Because the last distribution, I did not own any shares. So I will have to wait for the next distribution before I can actually enter that in. And that's what's going to help my adjusted price per share to start lowering, right? Let me go ahead and enter in my new positions. And this one was on 9/2 at 14.22, and I purchased 10 shares. My next purchase was on 9/3 at 14.30 for 10 shares. So that gives me a total of 30 shares at an average price of $14.39. So I am pretty flat with what the price is currently. I am about 3 cents higher than the close on Friday, right? So I'm still feeling pretty good about this. So after making those purchases right here, that does adjust that price per share. But whenever I hit those buy points, and since I don't have a very large position in SMCY currently, I am utilizing those points to increase my share count. And that will help my earnings for those distributions. So that's my current position on SMCY. Next, let's look at ULTY. And for ULTY, I made a few extra purchases and I have a distribution to enter. And currently, I'm showing a real price per share of $5.62, with the current price of ULTY being at $5.49. So I am not too far off from the current price of ULTY. But let's just go ahead and enter in my new purchases, and let's just see where that puts me. My first purchase here was on 9/2, and that was at $5.60, which is below my real price per share. And anytime I can purchase below my real price per share, that's going to help me, one, lower that real price per share, and two, increase my shares by doing so. And how many shares did I get? I purchased 25 more shares at that price. My next purchase was on 9/4, and that was at $5.50 for 25 shares. Well, that changed it down to $5.59 real share price average, right? And I made another purchase on 9/5. And if I purchased under $5.59, it's going to bring it down even more. And I did. I made it at $5.40. How many shares? 25 shares. So that $5.59 now will become $5.56. So you can see, I am bringing it down even by purchasing shares, right? Because I am buying under that adjusted price per share here. And then when I earn my distribution, it's going to bring it down even more. Now, eventually this number will get so low that it will be almost impossible to purchase shares under that adjusted price, right? Because ULTY would not get that low. At least we would not want it to, right? But just to let you know, eventually you can't necessarily buy it under your adjusted price per share if you are capturing your premiums and your distributions. So let's go ahead and enter in my distribution that I did earn. And an ULTY, that is a weekly distribution, remember. So this was on 9/4, and how much did we make? Well, it was on the lower side, right? It was exactly 9 cents. We'll put in 0.09, and how many shares? And that is why I enter in the X date into this date, because that tells me I have to own those shares before this date. And then I come over here and am I going to enter in 150 shares? Well, no, because I had one after that 9/4. Am I going to enter in 125 shares? Well, no, because this was purchased on the X date. So I can't even count those 25 shares either. And then the one before it is 9.2. That is before 9.4, so I can capture those. So I will add up this group here, which gives me a total of 100 shares, right? So that's 100 shares for this distribution. So that gives me a total of $9. And what did that do for my real price per share? It went from $5.56 down to $5.50. What? Check that out. Look at this. Price of ULTY, $5.49, and I'm at $5.50. I have brought down my real price per share in the way of capturing my distributions and by purchasing shares under my real price per share price, right? As long as I purchase under that, I can continually to lower this price. So that just gets me excited. Sorry, but I'm excited. ULTY, $5.49 current price, and my real price per share is $5.50. Love it, and I'm excited. And plus, I now have 150 shares that will be going toward the next distribution unless I make another purchase, and then that could go up for that distribution. We will see what the market gives us from now through Wednesday, right? Now, I did add a new one. I had told you that I was very curious to see what YMAX actually was at. I wanted to see if I was green or red in YMAX. I have owned it for quite a while, but I did make a current purchase of YMAX. So I'm going to enter that in, and I want to enter in the new distribution that we did get paid out this past week. But I've already entered in all the other purchases and all the other distributions, so you can see what my real price per share will be before entering the new distribution and my new purchase. And here we are. My real price per share for YMAX is $10.03 with the current price of YMAX at $12.53. Man, I'm excited. I didn't even know what it was, right? And I told you in my last video, I really didn't know. And that's how I've been before I had this sheet, right? I showed where my purchase share price being $18.72, and I showed where YMAX is at $12.53, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not too far down, right? Yes, I'm earning those distributions, and I am claiming them, right? But I don't know really where I sit in my current position. What is my average? I don't know. The only thing it told me in my broker app was $18.72. But I've earned those distributions, and I should roll those into that capital that I've invested, right? I should subtract that and find out what my real price per share is. And that's what this is, my $10.03. So I am indeed in the green for YMAX currently, right? Because YMAX current price being $12.53. So let's go ahead and enter in my new purchase and my new distribution, and let's just see what happens to the $10.03. Will it stay the same? Will it go up or will it go down? Because I did make a purchase and it is above that 10.03. So the only thing that can bring it back down is that distribution that I would get paid out. So that purchase that I made was on 9/4. My purchase price was at $12.50, and I purchased 8 shares. And there you go. So I purchased on 9/4. Well, we know what's going to happen here because the distribution date is 9/4 for the X date. So I will not be able to capture those additional 8 shares for this distribution. Those 8 shares will not get a distribution payout until the next distribution, right? But I will get to carry over all those shares before. But let's just go ahead and enter in that distribution. And that X date for that distribution was on 9/4. And that amount that we did earn on YMAX was 0.1094. How many shares are eligible for that distribution? Well, again, anything before 9/4. So we come over here to our list, and everything before 9/4 we can add. Well, the last one we entered in here is on 9/4, so I cannot add that. So I just need to add everything from this point up, or take my full amount of shares that I do show up here and just subtract 8 from it. Either one is going to give you the same number, right? If I highlight them all, you can see 750 shares. Or if I take that 758 and I subtract my last one of 8 shares, I got 750. So I have 750 shares eligible for that payout. Let's see, how much does that actually pay me? Enter in 750 right here, and that pays me out $82.05. So even though I could not count those additional 8 shares, I have a new price per share of $9.95 per share for my real price per share. So I am bringing this one on down. Now, it's not a quick thing, right, to recapture all of that capital, but eventually you have to, right? Because if you're not capturing your distributions and you're rolling everything back in, then your total risk is your total capital that you've invested, right? And if you're rolling your earnings back in, that to me is still you increasing your risk because you made money, but then you turn around and you gave it back. And there's no problem with that if that is your plan, right? If you're increasing the number of shares in your account, then that's one way of doing it. But that does increase your capital at risk. And in my case, my capital at risk originally was $14,000, right? $14,142.07 to be exact. But since I have been capturing my distributions, I now only have capital at risk of $7,541.37. And that divided by how many ever shares is sitting over here gives me my $9.95, right? So that is the reason why I track this number, because this number uses those distributions to help give you your real price or your adjusted price per share, whichever way you want to call it. But at $9.95 and the stock beat at $12.53, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about the position. Now, again, like I said, it is not a quick thing. It is a very slow process. But the only way you can get your money back is over time. Whether you wait until you got 100,000 shares or you do it now. Whichever way you do it, you still have to put the time in to get those shares paid off, right? And that's the reason I am playing it this way. I capture my distributions and I only purchase whenever it hits my buy points. And I'm very particular and careful on how much I am buying because I still am looking at the overall goal of getting the stock or the ETF paid off so that it is no longer a worry to me. So if you're interested in this sheet, you're welcome to look in the pinned comments or down in the description. There will be a link to buy me a coffee where you can get access to this sheet. And then you enter in your stock ticker and your information of your purchases and your distributions. And that way you can track what your real adjusted price per share is to help you better understand your position in each of your ETFs. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I also wanted to look at the monthly income spreadsheet because there was a comment that the RoundHill ETFs was not showing the right and correct numbers for that average. So let's just take a look at that and see what the potential problem could be. All right, there were 2 ETFs that one of the comments had mentioned. One of them was HOOW. Now this is a RoundHill one, right? And the other one was PLTW. So this one's off of Palantir, just like Platy with Yieldmax is. And this one is off of Robinhood, just like HOOW is with Yieldmax. Now, one of the differences, of course, is RoundHill, they are weekly payers versus Yieldmax, they are monthly payers. But let's just go ahead and quickly enter in the information here and let's just see what kind of quarterly weighted distribution that it spits out. And let's see if it makes sense. All right, so here we are on the blank sheet and let's just type it out here. So how much per month? You can enter in whatever you want, right? So we'll just keep it at that $1,000. And the ticker symbol for this one, again, that was HOOW. Now the payout as I stated, it is a weekly payout, okay? And now what do we need to do? We need to enter in our distribution information over here. And to do that, we'll go to the website and we'll just pull that in. All right, so here we are on the RoundHill website, and we're looking at HOOW. So we'll just scroll right on down and we'll get to the distributions right here. And there's the calendar and there's the history. And we'll just do show. So that shows all of them right here, right? And we can just click highlight it all and then do Control C. Then go back to our sheet. And if I click here and I do a paste special of values only, and I drop them in there, well, what happens? Because that's how I do it with Yieldmax, right? I just drop it straight in, no problem. It kicks everything out. Well, what's it doing over here? The quarterly weighted average. It's saying it's $45,000, right? Well, that's not right. Something's wrong. Well, what could be wrong? Well, the problem is if you look at the headers are different for Yieldmax versus RoundHill. This one here, the first one on Yieldmax, that's the distribution per share. And the last column on Yieldmax, it's a payable date, right? Well, this one for RoundHill, that's the distribution. And this is a date over here. So again, looking at the RoundHill website, see, paid amount, and that's the declaration date. Well, I want the paid amount and I want the pay date, right? So I actually only want these two last columns. So the way to do it, if you are pulling in information from other sites, what I would do is I would come right over here to this blank area. And instead of dropping it into the table right here, I would drop it in right here. So I'd do my same special paste, values only, right? And just remember, we're looking for this column as the date, and we're looking for this column as the price. So let's just go ahead and blow this away like that. And we will enter in the date here. And notice it is going down in the date, and we want that because we want the latest on top. So the layout is right. It's just the information is in different columns. So I want this as my pay date. So I'll do a Control C on that. And then I will special paste that with values only right into the date, right? And then I will take the distribution amount, Control C, and also drop that one in to the values only. Now, as I said, in the purple here, that's something that you can enter if you want, but it's not necessarily needed. And that's what the header up here says, not needed. This is the information you need, and this is information you need. And the rest of it is just because that's just how it is laid out in Yieldmax, and it just makes it nice and simple to do a special paste values only with this first cell, and everything just populates and it's looking at the correct columns. But if you're using it for a different fund, like say RoundHill in this case, then you have to make sure you're pulling the right columns and place them into the right columns on the spreadsheet. So once I do that, now what's my quarterly weighted average? It's $1.19. The standard average is $1.18. So with the weighted average, it weighs the distributions in this current quarter worth higher than the other ones, right? And of course, it does weight the latest one higher than even the week before. So looking at that now at $1.19, that's looking much better as far as a distribution average, right? And we can roll down here, and for this one, we can see you would need a total of 193 shares, capital invested with about 11,300, and a total monthly income of about that $1,000, because that is what we were looking for up here. So you can see that the sheet does work for other funds, as I just showed you for RoundHill. You just got to make sure that you're pulling in the information and placing them into the right columns. This here was actually set up column header wise for Yieldmax. So if you're using it for a different one, I would just drop it into an empty space over here on the side, and then pull whatever information you need and place it right into the sheet. And again, the green columns here are the only two that you have to do the calculations. And I think you get it, but I'll tell you, I might as well do it for PLTW as well, because that is what I stated I would do in the comment response. So for this one, we'll go pretty quick. It'll be $1,000. The ticker symbol is PLTW, and this is another weekly payer. I will go ahead and grab those distributions. I'll drop them in right over here, and then we'll drop those right into this column. We'll see what that quarterly weighted average distribution actually is. All right, so I pulled those in, and remember the last two columns here are the ones that we're looking for. This one being the date, so we'll just do a Control-C on that. We will drop that date right into here, and then we'll look at the distribution amounts, and we'll do a Control-C with the special paste right over into here with the values only. And now we have the quarterly weighted average distribution of 73 cents. That is a bit higher than the standard, because the standard average, it just does a simple average. It just adds them all up, divides by the number that you have, and it spits that out. And that's not always the best way to do an average, especially on the high yield ETFs, because as that price drops, that distribution could be going down as well. So you'd rather have a little closer to what it is now versus what it was 6 months ago, right? Now that's not saying that it can't get back to that price, but I like to use what it's actually paying currently, right? That average here. So for that one, you can see you would need 315 shares with about $13.2 thousand to pay out about $1,000 per month at the current price with that current average distribution. So I hope that helps. It's easy to just kind of drop them in, but do notice that if you do use a different fund other than a Yieldmax, you do have to make sure that you are dropping the information into the right columns. And I imagine that might be what threw off the last user, as I was showing how to drop them in with Yieldmax, and it's just a special paste the entire thing right into this table, because it is laid out as the distribution per share on that first column and the payable date on the last column for the Yieldmax funds, but not so much for the others. You have to make sure that it is laid out in the correct order in order to be able to paste it in. And always make sure the latest distribution is on top. And this sheet is also available in that same link. When you buy a coffee, you actually will receive a link to get both sheets. You'll be able to get the generating and monthly income sheet that you're seeing here, just to play around. And that's all this is. It's just to play around and see where and how many shares that you may need to get what you're looking for. And also in that same email that you'll receive after buying me a coffee, you will also have that link to get a way of tracking your stock positions and calculating that real adjusted price per share. So just for the price of a coffee, you can get access to both those sheets. My tracking your stock position sheet, along with the generating a monthly income. Both will be in that same email, and there will be 2 links, one for each. So not too bad of a deal if you ask me. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that like button. And if you are not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button too. We'd love for you to join the group. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.